Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 28th of June, comes to you from London. And one of the big things happening in the charts at the moment is Bitcoin breaking that $30,000 mark for the first time in 12 months. People who bought Bitcoin at the end of last year would be more than double their money, or just double their money. So really quite significant that is rising again. Love it or hate it. It is an asset and people trade it, and we will do some commentary on Bitcoin at the end. We've run a poll today, getting a lot of interesting results coming in about how high people think Bitcoin will go, but we'll do the analysis at the end of this session. We'll cover our normal things. We'll start with the dollar and then look at currencies against the dollar, and then stock indices. We'll go on to commodities. We'll take a look at the energy markets, what's going on, especially in European energy, and then we might look at some of the tech stocks as well, and of course that Bitcoin analysis at the end. So looking at the dollar index, we see here that we are, this is the clouds, remember, this is the weekly, daily and 60-minute. New feature in Updata now is that we put long-term, medium-term and short-term on the charts. It recognizes what time frame you're looking at, and so this is my long-term, medium-term and short-term view of the market. The weekly, daily and 60-minute charts with the corresponding point and figure target. So we see here that the dollar index is wandering below the cloud, and we're seeing here this lower high from the March high, and the key thing is, will we break below that $100 on the dollar index, the 100 in point mark? We do have a downside target to 82, some 20% lower, and we do have some short-term downside targets, and we are below the cloud. So looks like a tough week ahead for the dollar. Looking at the euro, we're sitting at 109.50. Just starting to break above the cloud on the long-term chart. Medium-term, we're holding above the cloud, and short-term, we're higher. Just a shortage of the short-term targets there on the 60-minute chart. Looking at dollar yen, which is normally quite a good lead indicator, you're seeing the dollar actually looking stronger against the yen. So that is one thing that is just tempering any view on long-term dollar weakness, because we are seeing that the yen is weaker than that dollar, which is potentially weaker. And looking at sterling, of course, we had that big interest rate rise last week. We are breaking back to new lows below 127. So short term we're bearish. We've got some downside targets there. Medium term bullish above the cloud, and long term we are breaking. We do have targets in place to 130, 142. So that's significantly higher. But of course the key thing is shorter term we are seeing a pullback. Looking at euro sterling, we're sitting at 115.84, and again we see sterling sinking lower there, so that's really quite interesting. The Nasdaq pushing higher, bullish above the cloud on all three time frames. We do have a couple of short-term downside targets, but we do have targets some 20% higher and 9% higher on the medium term, and of course we are just pushing to new highs potentially there, so that's really quite significant. And looking at the futures, we look at the S&P E-mini, remembering that 4200 was a critical level. We're now really well away from that at 4400, bullish again on all three time frames, and so we are just seeing that. And the tech stocks, the major component now of the S&P, is what's driving this, of course, and we are just seeing here the S&P not looking quite as strong as the Nasdaq on the short term. FTSE future is up 0.6%, so we're just struggling really here. We're back below the cloud medium term. Short term looking a little bit better. Weaker sterling will help. A lot of FTSE 100 companies in the UK have their earnings as dollar denominated or not sterling denominated. And if we look at the DAX in Germany, the cash, the future's up 0.7%, the cash is up 0.8%. So we are seeing the DAX looking stronger there as well. And looking at the Japanese market, we see we're pushing ever higher here. This was the one market we felt very strongly would have good upside, and it's really outperforming. This 2100 level now is quite critical for the 400 index. Hang Seng was just slightly higher last night, and if we look at the Chinese market, it was flat, so no changes. And looking at the Sensex in India up 0.8%, again nudging new highs, bullish on all three time frames. A new target potential building on this column, but we've got targets here some 23% higher, 26% higher, lots of upside targets telling you long term that is likely. The more targets you have, the more likelihood that you are going to go there. And looking at the Aussie market, pretty flat, just struggling in the cloud. So that's also quite interesting. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute. Just looking at some of the softs, we've got coffee. That's up 0.8%. Not enough to really change the picture. We're bearish on all three time frames there. If we look at sugar, sugar was a really strong performer, but now just coming off the top there. So pulling away, downside target there as well, because you can do this on any chart. Gold is really struggling. We're back to near the 1900 level, just moving back below the cloud on the medium term. This 2000 levels just a push too far for gold. Couldn't make new highs. We've got downside targets. Short term, we're seeing downside targets. If you're trading gold, you need to watch those. But we are just bearish short term, bearish medium term, and the long term is still holding. But a move below 1900 will not be psychologically good for gold, and certainly 1800 is a level that we must hold for the long term. Silver again was nudging 25. Now we're above 25 just a month ago, and now we are just turning bearish there as well. So precious metals not looking great. US 10-year yield sitting at 3.73%. We still do have a tussle going on. Upside targets and downside targets, and some of these downside targets were removed. So it is still bullish above the cloud there, and on the very short term chart with this hourly chart, we are just seeing here a bit of a pullback going on. Looking at some of the tech stocks, Apple just pushing to new highs all the time, 25% upside on the long term chart there, and we got short term upside targets as well for timing, looking just an incredible trend. Of course, the biggest stock in the US driving the market forward. Looking at some of the others there, Amazon looking strong, not yet above the cloud on the weekly. Alphabet, Google here, same, just not quite getting above the cloud, but still quite good there. And then Microsoft, you just see the difference between Apple and Microsoft and the others, looking very, very strong there. And Microsoft was up 3% yesterday. Facebook was up 3%, Meta. And again, just really strong recovery there. And Tesla were up 3% as well. That recovery continuing. Just a shortage of upside targets where we see those targets coming in on some of the charts. So Microsoft, for example, we do have good, strong upside targets to play for, as we do on Apple. Now, looking at the energy mix, we've got Brent crude not looking good on the weekly chart here. Sorry, the daily chart. This is the daily and the 60-minute. So my medium term and short term, that's in the top of the charts there again. Medium term, short term, we are seeing lower here. It's always worth remembering that time horizon. So we were bearish out today on our crude oil because we do just have this below the clouds on both charts. US natgas 280 is the critical level here to break. We are just in this consolidation pattern. Looks like we probably will. On the 60-minute chart, we've got upside targets higher, but on the 1-minute chart, we do have just a bit of a tussle going on there as well. But long term, or this medium term on that daily chart, we are crossing above the cloud on US natgas. So that is a little bit of a story there. Looking at coal, we're sitting at 117. Again, recovering on the 60-minute chart. Emissions fairly flat. We found a floor there at around 86. And the key thing is we are below the cloud there, still short term, and medium term we pulled back as well. We do have some upside targets. Watch the 1-minute targets. If you're trading any of the commodities like emissions or gas, you need to be looking at these. TTF 3200, 32 euros, 32.50. There's really strong support there. We need to hold that. The key thing is, can we break 40? On NBP, it's 80p. Can we hold that level, and will we break 90? It's just really what we have to watch. Keep an eye on your 1-minute targets there, really quite key. And if we look at German power, it was looking like a descending triangle breakdown, but we are just taking it to the wire there. Now back to that Bitcoin, just for the last analysis. We've got targets to 54, 50,000, so really significant. And of course, you can just open any chart in Updata, hit the T key, no matter what it is, 44,250. We change our targets. We go to 4,900, so 49,000. So 49,000 is on the 500 by 3. The 250 by 3, it's 44,250, and we can go shorter term still. And then of course you can go, this is on the daily, you can go down to the 60-minute and then start doing the targets that way and playing into. And on the 1-minute, if you're trading Bitcoin, that's going to be key. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. Bye for now.